warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for coming to the online class today. Inshallah, for today, we will try to finish topic 6, which is on consumer utility theory. And before we continue with our lesson for today, let me first announce few things. Number one, a gentle reminder on our midterm exam, which is scheduled next class on Thursday from 2 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. Okay. Firstly, the midterm exam will comprise of two parts. We have 20 multiple choice questions and two essay questions. For the essay questions, you need to type in the space provided on the iTalim page. Okay. Hopefully you are able to finish within 1.5 hours, because that will be more than sufficient. Yeah. Some people are worried that they are not able to type very quickly. Yeah? So I have given 1.5 hour for something that can be done, let's say, within 1 hour or 1 hour and 15 minutes. Yeah. So 20 multiple choice questions, you can finish that in maybe 25 minutes, yeah, or maximum 30 minutes. So the remaining 1 hour, you can use it to answer the two short essays. Okay. Number two, with regard to your Google Meet class recording from before, I was not able to upload it on iTalim because of the size. Apparently, the size is quite big. Therefore, I need to get somebody to put it on YouTube and provide the link as we have done for the video recording of topic 5 lectures. Okay. Uh, so hopefully later this week, I will be able to put the link on iTalim for everyone to view. But you need not have to worry, because topic 6 will not be covered in the midterm exam. Yeah. So what we will cover is topic 5 until topic 1 until topic 5. Topic 1 is the introductory chapter to economics. Topic 2 is the economic system, including the article that I have asked you to read on Islamic economic system. Topic 3 on demand, supply, and market equilibrium. Topic 4 is on market failures and externalities. And topic 5 on elasticities, the four types of elasticities. I think topic 4 and topic 5, I have included some questions in the exercise 1, yeah, for you to do earlier last week. Number 3, there are a number of you who send messages. I have not able to reply to all of these messages because I was occupied with a program that I need to organize, and that program, alhamdulillah, was completed yesterday. So today I have classes from morning. So later today I will start to reply all these messages. Some are related to the exercise, some are related to the attendance and so on. Yeah. So please bear with me. I will reply to all of the messages. Yeah. Soon, inshallah. Okay. Any questions before we start our lesson for today?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Right, let me share my screen so that we can start our lesson for today. Yeah. Okay. Before we start with this second approach to consumer utility theory, I just would like to recap what we have done previously. Uh, we have two approaches to understand consumer utility theory. Number one is the cardinal utility approach. The cardinal utility approach assumes that we are able to measure objectively the level of satisfaction a consumer derive by consuming a particular good or service. This unit of measurement used to measure the level of satisfaction is called utils. Yeah, one util is one unit of satisfaction. As the number of utils increases, therefore the level of satisfaction a consumer derive from that consumption will also increase. However, this creates a problem because the level of satisfaction a consumer derive from consuming a particular good or service is not something that we can measure objectively. It's very subjective in nature, and it is part of somebody's experience, what they feel inside. Yeah, and therefore we are not able to measure objectively as we are able to measure length or distance or height or temperature, which can be observed physically. Yeah, the level of satisfaction someone derive is hidden and can only be experienced by that particular person. So measuring uh, objectively using a standard units of measurement like utils is considered to be problematic by many economists. Yeah. So even though economists use cardinal utility approach to prove that consumer maximize utility by buying more quantities of the product when the price is lower, as we have done in our previous online class. But this is a very big assumption that we have made. As a result of this, some economists tried to come up with another approach, and this approach is called the ordinal approach to utility theory. So, ordinal approach use ordering of satisfaction. Yeah. So we say that okay, I prefer A to B because A will give me higher satisfaction as compared to B. So we are just ordering our preferences and ordering our level of satisfaction without prescribing a certain number of or a certain level of satisfaction. We don't say that, okay, my utility from A is 20 utils, my utility from B is 10 utils. Therefore, A is preferred to B because A give me more utility. So that is a cardinal approach where we assign certain numbers, certain level of utils, yeah, to measure our satisfaction. In the case of this ordinal approach, we don't assign numbers. We don't use 20, 40 utils and so on. What we use is just an ordering of or ranking of the level of satisfaction. Uh, A give me highest utility as compared to B and C. C give me lower level of satisfaction as compared to B. So we are able to do the ordering. A is preferred to B and B is preferred to C without giving any utility values. Okay, so I hope this is clear to you. Yeah. In order to understand the consumer utility maximization using an ordinal approach, we use the indifference curve analysis. The indifference curve analysis has two components, the budget line and the indifference curve itself. Yeah. So let's look at these two components first before we discuss how the indifference curve analysis will be used to understand how consumer maximizes uh, his or her utility. Okay, the budget line is something that we have already discussed in our first topic, yeah, topic 1, which is the economizing problem of an individual. Okay, the economizing of problem of an individual represent the choice faced by an individual given the limited income that the individual has. If you are looking at this example, yeah, we have quantities of A represented by the y-axis, yeah, and quantities of B represented by the x-axis. Assuming that the income of the consumer is $12 being allocated to purchase combinations of A and B, right? And given that the price of A is $1.50 and the price of A is $1, then we can derive the budget line. Yeah? The easiest way how to draw a budget line is by computing the two intercepts at y-axis and at x-axis. Okay, so the formula to compute the intercepts is basically the income M divided by the price of the product. Yeah, for example, on y-axis we have quantities of A. So to compute the number of units or the point on the y-axis, we just take the income 12 divided by price of A 1.5. So you will get 8 units of A on that y-axis with 0 units of B. Okay, so we have the y-intercept there, 8 units of A with 0 units of B. On the horizontal axis, on the x-axis, we can also use the same way, $12 total income divided by the price of B, which is $1. So 12 divided by 1. So the x-intercept will be at 12 units of B with 0 units of A. So even with these 2 points, you already are able to derive or draw the budget line by connecting these 2 points on the y-intercept 8 A's 0 B, and the point on the x axis, the x-intercept 12 B's and 0 A. Just combine the 2 points together, then you will have a budget line. However, there are also many other points along this budget line. Yeah, for example, we can have 6 A's and 3 B's, which will also be located on the budget line somewhere in the towards the left side. Yeah, or we can also have 2 A's and 9 Bs, somewhere down nearer to the x-intercept, yeah, and also many other points, yeah, in between. Okay, so this is how we draw the budget line. The budget line tells us that any combination outside the budget line is unattainable. Yeah, for example, the consumer cannot buy a point, let's say 8 A's and 4 B's. Okay, if you identify that point, 8 units of A and 4 units of B, it will be outside the budget line, to the right of the budget line. Yeah, so that combination of the two products cannot be purchased because you need more than $12 to buy that combination. Yeah, 8 A's will need $12, 4 B's will need another $4. So you can only purchase at 8 units of A's and 4 units of B's if you have $16 altogether. Okay. Now, this budget line can change if three things happen. Number one, the price of A changes. Number two, the price of B changes. And number three, income changes. Okay, what happened if the price of A dropped to $1? Anyone? What will happen to the budget line?
It will be more
Anyone want
steep.
to answer? More what?
Steep, right?
It will be steeper. So you mean that what happened? Income is the same, $12, but now the price of A is no longer 1.5, it's 1, right? So we know that the formula to compute the y-intercept is income divided by price of A. So 12 divided by 1 now is no longer 8 but 12, right? So the new budget line will be coming down from 12 units of A down to 12 units of B. Okay, so the budget line doesn't shift altogether. Yeah, it is not involving a shift because the point on the x-intercept is still the same. Yeah, the one that is changing here is the point on the y-intercept. We call this a rotation. In this case, the budget line rotates outward, yeah, on the side of the y-intercept, while the point on the x-intercept remains the same. What happens if the price of B increase from $1 to $2?
The budget line of B will shrink from 12 to 6.
Okay, so there will be a movement on the side of the x-axis, yeah, while the location or the intercept on the y-axis remains the same. Yeah, so this is another rotation, inward rotation on the x-axis from from 12 units down to 8 units. When one of the two ends move, we call this a rotation, inward or outward. But if both changes, for example, the price of A decline to $1 and the price of B decline to 50 cents, then what will happen? We will have two different intercepts for both y-axis and x-axis. If the price of A declined to $1, then the y-intercept will move up from 8 units now to 12 units of A. And when the price of B declined to 50 cents, then the x-intercept here will move from 12 units of B up to 24 units of B. Yeah, so the new budget line will come down from 12 units of A on the y-axis down to 24 units of B on the x-axis. So this happens when both prices, yeah, product A and product B changes at the same time. What else can cause this shift? We call this a shift, right? When both ends move. What else can cause this change or this shift?
Income changes.
Changes in income, yeah? Changes in income. For example, if the income of the consumer increased from $12 to $15, what will happen to the budget line? So we use the formula again. Now the income is 15, right? So 15 divided by the price of A is 1.5. So instead of 8 units, now you are able to buy 10 units when you don't buy any B at all. Yeah. So if all income of $15 is used to purchase only A, then you are able to buy 10 A's and 0 B. On the x-axis, income is $15 divided by the price of $1. Then if you use all income to buy only B's, then you will be able to buy 15 units of B and 0 units of A. So the new budget line will come down from the y-intercept 10 units down to the x-intercept 15 units. So this is another factor that can contribute to the shift of the budget line. Okay, let's go to the second component of the indifference curve. Now, before we talk about ordering the preferences of the consumer based on their level of satisfaction, first we need to understand the concept of an indifference curve. Indifference means that you are neutral. You don't have any preference towards one as compared to the other. For example, if you are given a questionnaire form, a survey, and then you are asked many questions, and the answer will be from 1 to 7. 1 being strongly disagree, and then disagree, slightly disagree, and then neutral, and then agree, slightly agree, agree, and strongly agree. If you do not know what to choose, or you don't have any particular view on that matter, on the specific question, you may want to just put the middle scale. Yeah? From 1 to 7, you just put 4, neutral or indifference. It means that you are neither agreeing nor disagreeing with the statement given. Yeah, so the same goes in this context where indifference curve represent the combinations of two goods which the consumer doesn't have any particular preference, because all of them, all of the combinations will give the consumer the same level of satisfaction. Okay, let's use some examples here. Okay, you have the table there, 4 options, 4 baskets of goods, J, K, L, M. Let's say you went to an international book fair, and suddenly when you enter the main entrance, the organizer asks you to come to the registration counter. And then they said to you, oh, congratulations, you are our 100,000th visitor. and you are able to choose from any of these four hampers. So you look at these four baskets of fruits. Actually, the lucky draw prize consisting of fruits. In the first basket, labeled J, there were 12 apples and 2 bananas. In the second one, labeled K, you have 6 apples and 4 bananas. In the third basket, L, you have 4 apples and 6 bananas. And in the last one, basket labeled M, you have 3 apples and uh, 8 bananas. Okay. So when you look at all of these options, you say that, okay, any one of these will give me the same level of satisfaction. So I am indifferent to any of this. Yeah. So if you give me any of this, I will be equally satisfied. So this is what we call indifference curve. Before we order the level of satisfaction between different potential combinations, first we combine all combinations which will give the consumer the same level of satisfaction. These are all giving the consumer the same level of satisfaction. Then we will have other indifference curves in an indifference map, so that the higher the indifference curve location, the higher will be the level of satisfaction. That will be done in the next slide. Yeah. In this slide, we need to understand that all of these four options will give the consumer the same level of satisfaction, such that the consumer is indifferent to any of these combination. All of these will give the consumer the same level of satisfaction. There are two important properties of an indifference curve. Yeah. So what you are seeing there in the table, we call it indifference schedule. Just like demand schedule and demand curve. Yeah, if it is in the table, we call it a demand schedule. In this case, an indifference schedule. If it is in the diagram, we call it an indifference curve. So if you look at the diagram, the indifference curve has two properties. Yeah. Number one, it is downward sloping, right? Downward sloping. It means that if you want to have more bananas, you need to have less apples. The reason is simple. If you have more bananas and at the same time you have the same number of apples, for example, let's compare between J and K. J and K. All right. So in basket J, you have 12 apples and 2 bananas. If you add 2 more bananas, now you have 4 bananas. And if you keep the 12 apples, then the new basket will no longer giving you the same level of satisfaction, because 4 bananas plus 12 apples will definitely give you more satisfaction as compared to 2 bananas plus 12 apples. So in order for the second basket, in this case basket K, to give you the same level of satisfaction, once you are adding more bananas, you need to take out some apples. Yeah, so that basket J and basket K will give you the same level of satisfaction. Similarly, if you want to add 2 more bananas from K to L, yeah, so before this you have 4 bananas. Now you are adding 2 more bananas from 4 to 6 bananas. Obviously, you will get more satisfaction with more quantities of bananas. Therefore, you need to sacrifice some numbers of apples to ensure that the level of satisfaction will be the same. Yeah, if you have 6 bananas, but you still keep the 6 apples, then definitely total satisfaction will be higher. So in order to have more bananas And to keep the level of satisfaction to be at the same level, you need to have less apples. Okay, and finally, from L to M, when you added more bananas, from 6 bananas to 8 bananas, now you need to reduce further the number of apples from 4 to 3. Okay, so adding quantities of one product require you to reduce the quantities of the other product, because all of these baskets give you the same level of satisfaction. You cannot have more bananas and still keep the same number of apples, because that will mean that you will have more satisfaction. Yeah. So if you need to increase the number of bananas, you need to reduce the number of apples. Similarly, if you want to increase the number of apples, you need to reduce the number of bananas to keep the level of satisfaction at the same level. Yeah, this is when we move from down to the top. Let's say we are starting from basket M. We have 3 apples and 8 bananas. You want to add more apples. So you add one more apple from 3 to 4. You are required to reduce bananas from 8 to 6. If you want to increase apples from 4 to 6, you will need to reduce bananas from 6 to 4. If you want to increase the number of apples from 6 to 12, you need to reduce the number of bananas from 4 to 2. Yeah, so both ways require you to reduce the number of quantities of the other product if you want to increase the quantity of this product, in order to keep the level of satisfaction at the same level. That's why the indifference curve is downward sloping. A negative slope means that there is a negative relationship between quantities of A and quantities of B. The higher the quantities of A require the lesser quantities of B. Similarly, the higher the quantities of B require the lesser quantities of A. The second property, as you can see from the diagram, is that the indifference curve is convex in nature. If you still remember the shape of the production possibilities curve, still remember the production possibilities curve, we call that shape a concave curve because it bowed out from the origin. Yeah, it's shaped like a bow. Yeah. So the slope on the production possibilities curve is becoming steeper and steeper. Yeah, initially it is flat, then it goes down very steep, right? So the slope becomes steeper and steeper. But the indifference curve in this example, you can see that the slope becomes flatter and flatter. Yeah, flatter and flatter. So since the slope becomes flatter and flatter, the shape of the indifference curve is known as a convex curve. What is actually the slope of this indifference curve? The slope of this indifference curve represents the marginal rate of substitution. Yeah, you substitute one for the other, right? Remember, if you want to have more bananas, you need to have less apples. If you want to have more apples, you need to have less banana. But the number of apples that you need to sacrifice to add 2 more bananas, or the number of bananas that you need to sacrifice in order to get additional units of apples, they are not the same. Yeah. For example, if we go from J to M, J we have 12 apples and 2 bananas. Okay. So if we want to add 2 more bananas, from 2 bananas to 4 bananas, then how many apples we need to sacrifice? We need to take out 12 down to 6, right? So 6 apples needs to be taken out or removed from the basket in order for the level of satisfaction to be at the same level. Okay, so by adding 2 bananas from 2 to 4, you need to take out 6 apples. Yeah, so the substitution the marginal rate of substitution is very high here. Yeah, for 2 bananas, you need to sacrifice 6 apples. You are substituting you are substituting 6 apples for 2 bananas. Okay. Now, when you move from K to L, how many apples you need to take out? 6 apples down to 4, right? So
Two.
in this example, yeah, okay. So in this example, the marginal rate of substitution is 2 apples for another 2 bananas. Yeah, banana increase from 4 to 6. So the marginal rate of substitution here is just 2 apples for another 2 banana. And then from L to M, what is the marginal rate of substitution? It's just 1, right? You are substituting 1 apple for another 2 more units of banana. So initially it was 6 apples down to 2 apples and now down to 1 apples for every 2 units of banana that you want to add into the basket. Yeah. So because the marginal rate of substitution becomes lower and lower, therefore, and the marginal rate of substitution basically represents the slope of the indifference curve. That's why the slope becomes flatter and flatter, and therefore you have a convex shape of the indifference curve. The question is, why is that the marginal rate of substitution becomes smaller and smaller? Why is that initially you need to substitute 6 apples for 2 units of banana? And after that, only 2 apples for 2 units of banana. And then after that, only 1 apples for the same additional 2 units of banana. The reason can be traced to the law of diminishing marginal utility. Do you still remember what is the law of diminishing marginal utility? Anyone? It's either you are tired, or you are sleepy, or you have
Ad-
ate too much.
Additional satisfaction from the additional move
Uh,
give lower satisfaction.
give lower and lower additional satisfaction or marginal utility. Yeah? Okay, we are talking about marginal utility. Total utility will still increase if the marginal utility is still positive. Okay, so we are talking about marginal utility. Now, when you have 12 apples, what will be the marginal utility? Would it be high or would it be low? Marginal utility when you already have 12 apples.
Low.
Low, right? Because you already have 12 apples, right? So marginal utility will be very low. But marginal utility for banana will still be very high because you only have 2 bananas. Yeah. So we can say that people value more when they have less of something, and people value something which they have a lot in quantities less. Yeah. So here, uh, if we look at the basket for J, you have 12 apples, and therefore, as compared to banana, you value apple less than banana. Yeah. So and marginal utility for apple is also low, and marginal utility for banana is still high. So when you add the third and the fourth banana, the additional utility that comes with the third and the fourth banana will still be very high. And therefore, you cannot just take out 2 apples to make the 2 basket equal in its satisfaction level. Okay, remember, apple give you low marginal utility, banana give you high marginal utility because you still have very few bananas. So when you add 2 more bananas, the additional satisfaction from the third and the fourth banana would be high, right? So if you want to make basket J and basket K to be of equal level of satisfaction, you cannot just take out 2 apples, yeah, so that K will have 10 apples and 4 bananas. It will not be similar to 12 apples and 2 bananas. It will be more because the additional satisfaction from the third and fourth will still be very high. Yeah. So if you want to make J and K to be of equal level of satisfaction, you need to reduce big quantities of apples. Yeah. In this case, you need to take out 6 apples in order to have the same level of satisfaction as compared to basket J. Yeah. So in other words, when you added the third and the fourth banana, you gain a lot in terms of satisfaction. So you cannot just take out 2 apples. You need to take out 6 apples. So the 6 apples that you have removed will have the same level of satisfaction as the 2 bananas you have added. Yeah, so you added 2 bananas. The level of satisfaction from these 2 additional bananas is equivalent to the level of satisfaction from the 6 apples that you have removed from the basket. The reason is because you have a lot of apples, marginal apples are low, marginal utility of apples are low. So those 6 apples in terms of satisfaction is equivalent to the 2 bananas that you have added. So far, okay? Can you understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. So now we move to L. Now you have now 6 apples and 4 bananas. More or like similar, not exactly similar, but close to similar in quantities. Yeah. So you don't have that many apples as before. Now you only have 6 apples. So you value apples more now. Marginal utility for apples are now higher as compared to before. Yeah. Probably is equivalent to the satisfaction or marginal utility from bananas. So if you want to add 2 more bananas from 4 to 6, since marginal utility for apples are now higher because you only have 6 apples, you only need to take out 2 apples from 6 down to 4 to make the basket in L to be having the equal satisfaction as compared to basket K. Okay. In other words, the 2 additional bananas, the 5th and the 6th bananas, will give you some level of satisfaction. And the apples that you have removed, the 5th and 6th apples that you have removed, is equivalent in terms of satisfaction to the 5th and 6th bananas that you have added, which makes basket K and L equally satisfying to the consumers. Okay. Now we are at point L. We only have 4 apples and we have 6 bananas. Now we have fewer apples, so we value more apples. The marginal utility for apples is now higher than the marginal utility for bananas because we have less apples. If we were want to add 2 more bananas from 6 bananas to 8 bananas, then the marginal utility for bananas are becoming lower, whereas the marginal utility for apples are now higher because you only have 4 apples. So you only need to take out 1 apple because the 1 apple that you took out from 4 down to 3 represent an equal amount of satisfaction as compared to the 2 bananas that you have added, the 7th and the 8th bananas. Okay, so because you have more bananas now, the marginal utility for bananas are lower. So So the 7th and 8th bananas will give you some level of satisfaction, but this level of satisfaction is equivalent to the 4th unit of apples that you took out. Yeah, so you need to only reduce apples from 4 down to 3. So because of this, the marginal rate of substitutions becomes smaller and smaller in terms of apples here, 12 down to 6. So the first one, the marginal rate of substitution is 6 apples, and then 2 apples and just 1 apple. Yeah. Okay. Now we have done with understanding the indifference curve. Let's look at the indifference map. Okay. In one indifference curve, all the combinations of the two products gives the consumer the same level of satisfaction. Before this, we have J, K, L, M, all along the same indifference curve, and they are all giving the same level of satisfaction. However, we can also find other combinations located at a higher level of satisfaction, as shown by this indifference map. You have I1, I2, I3, and I4. Yeah. For each of the indifference curve, you have many combinations, right? So for example, on I4, you can have many combinations along I4, and they are all giving the same level of satisfaction. But since I4 is located above I3, so any combinations of I4 will be preferred over any combinations on I3. Okay, because I3 is located below I4. Similarly, any combinations of on I3 will be preferred over any combinations along I2, and any combinations on I2 will be preferred over any combinations on I1. In other words, the higher the location of the indifference curve, the higher will be the level of satisfaction that the consumer will gain. This is why we call it an ordinal approach. We are ranking the level of satisfaction first by identifying combinations which will give you the same level of satisfaction. Yeah, you combine all of them into one single indifference curve. And then you will have many combinations representing many indifference curves. And we put it on an indifference map. So you have a lot of combinations in all of those indifference curve. But the objective of a consumer is to maximize utility. And therefore, the consumer will try to reach the highest possible indifference curve. In this example, I4 is the highest. So preferably, the consumer would want to achieve any combinations on I4. But this is subjected to the budget line, because the consumer has budget constraint. And this is influenced by two factors. Number one, the income of the consumer. And number two, the prices for A and B, which is basically represented by the budget line. Okay. If you look at the budget line here, yeah, can the consumer reach any combinations on I4?
No.
No, right? They are all outside the budget line, right? So all combinations on I4, even though they are preferred, yeah, because it carries the highest level of satisfaction in this example, but they are outside the reach of the budget line. Can the consumer reach I3?
Yes.
Yes, but not all, right? Only 1 point on I3, right?
Mm.
So is that a problem? we have many combinations on I3, but the budget line is only able to touch 1 point on I3. Is that a problem?
Yes.
Why is there a problem?
There's
Remember,
not a lot of combination can be done.
not lots of combinations you can choose, right? You can only get 1 point, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that should not be a problem because remember, any combinations on I3 will give the consumer the same level of satisfaction, right?
Yeah.
So, so it does not matter whether the budget line, whether I3, sorry, it does not matter whether the consumer is able to buy many combinations on I3 and choose one, because any of them will give the consumer the same level of satisfaction. That's why it is called indifference curve, right? So it is good enough for the consumer to get even 1 point on I3, because that will be the point in which the consumer will enjoy the same level of satisfaction as compared to other combinations. You have other combinations on I3 which will require you more income, right? All the other points on I3 is outside the budget line, so you need more income to buy those combinations. But why you want to buy all of those combinations if you are able to buy that point labeled as X on I3? Because that point will also give you the same level of satisfaction. Yeah. In other words, the consumer will maximize, the consumer will be able to achieve the level of satisfaction provided by I3, even if the consumer is able to reach only 1 point on that indifference curve. Okay? Okay. Now, can the consumer reach any point on I2?
Yes.
Yes, there are a lot, right? Some I2 cuts the budget line 2 times, and there are many other combination inside the budget line. So the problem for this is, if the consumer buy any combination on I2, even though it is within the budget line, but it will not be the highest level of satisfaction. Yeah. So why you want to buy combinations which will give you only the level of satisfaction derived from I2, whereas you can buy a combination that will give you higher satisfaction as shown by I3. Okay, so that also goes to I1, even though it is within the budget, but I1 will give the consumer the lowest level of satisfaction. Okay, so the consumer will try to reach the highest possible indifference curve. And in this context, the highest possible indifference curve is shown by I3. Now, when we look at the shape of the indifference curve, it is downward sloping and convex. And then the shape of the budget line is also downward sloping. Okay, so the point for the consumer equilibrium will be at the point where the budget line only touches the highest reachable indifference curve, only touches. Yeah, in other words, the budget line is tangent to the highest indifference curve that it can reach. So the mathematical property of a tangency is that the slope of the budget line will be exactly equal to the slope of the indifference curve at that point X. Yeah. So the budget line is tangential to the indifference curve at the point of consumer equilibrium. You still remember the utility maximization rule for cardinal approach? There were two conditions, right? Number one, marginal utility per dollar for both products must be the same. Yeah, MUA over price of A must be equal to MUB over price of B. And number two, all income is utilized. So similarly, in this case, at point X there, at the point of a consumer equilibrium, number one, the slope of the budget line is equal to the slope of the indifference curve. The slope of the budget line is basically price of A divided by price of B. And then the slope of the indifference curve is basically the marginal rate of substitution. If you do the maths, then you will still get the same mathematical property as the cardinal utility approach. Secondly, all income are being utilized. Yeah. At point X there, how many units of A and how many units of B is purchased? At consumer equilibrium position there, how many units of A and how many units of B?
4 unit of A,
And
6 unit of B.
okay, so 4 units of A and 6 units of B. Yeah. So 4 A's is $6, right? 4 times 1.5, $6. And 6 units of B is also $6. So the consumer has fully utilized all the $12 of income. In fact, we don't have to compute in the first place, yeah, because any points along the budget line represent the use of all income. Yeah. So the two conditions are already fulfilled, where the budget, the slope of the budget is equal to the slope of the indifference curve. Yeah, at that tangential point is the consumer equilibrium, and secondly, the income allocated to the purchase of the two products is fully utilized. Yeah. Okay. When we discuss about the cardinal utility approach, we have also able to derive the demand curve for oranges before this, right? For oranges. What happened initially when the price was 2, and then after that when the price dropped to 1. Yeah, and therefore we are able to draw the demand curve for oranges. In this example, we can also derive the demand curve. Let's say the price of B decline, price of B increase from $1 to $1.5. Okay, can you see there what happens to the budget line? The budget line rotates inward on the side of the x-axis. Okay, so initially the x-intercept is at 12 units of B, 0 units of A. Now with the increase in the price of B, the same income can only buy lesser quantities of B. Yeah, in this example, we can only buy 8 units of B with 0 units of A. So the rotation would be on the side of the x-axis, while the point on the y-axis remains the same. Now, after this change in the price of B and the rotation inward of the budget line, can the consumer still reach I3?
No.
Anyone?
No.
No,
No,
right?
sir.
No, right? So now the budget line has basically shrink, and therefore I3 is outside the attainable area. Yeah. So now the highest reachable indifference curve will be what? I2, I1,
I2.
I2, right? So the budget line will be tangential to I2 at that point. And what would be the quantities for A and quantities for B?
5 and 3.
5 units of A and 3 units of B. Okay. So now we are trying to derive demand for B. So forget about A at the moment. So before this, uh, when the price of B was $1, we purchased 6B. The consumer purchased 6B. Now, when the price of B increases from $1 to 1.5, the budget line rotates inwards. Now, the new consumer equilibrium is at the point where the consumer will buy only 3 Bs. Yeah. So we can record this observation and draw the demand curve for B. The y-axis represent the price of B, and the x-axis represent the quantities of B. And then we plot $1 at $1, 6 units of B, and at $1.5, 3 units of B. So we have 2 points on the diagram, and then when we connect these 2 points with a straight line, then we have a downward sloping demand curve. So using this indifference curve analysis, we are also able to derive a downward sloping demand curve and prove that the law of demand is actually representing a negative relationship between price and quantity demanded. In other words, when consumer is maximizing utility, consumer will be buying more quantities of a product when the price is higher and less quantities of the product when the consumer will purchase more quantities of the product when the price is lower and less quantities of the product when the price is higher. Okay. Finally, let us look at the two important explanations for the law of demand, which is the income effect and the substitution effect. Firstly, the income effect. When the price of B increases from $1 to $1.5, we can clearly see the impact in terms of the purchasing power. The budget line rotated inwards. Yeah. In other words, the area for the consumer to buy different combinations of the two goods becomes smaller. Yeah. So in this example, I3 is already outside the attainable areas for the new budget line. So this represent the impact in terms of the income effect, yeah, where the real income in terms of the purchasing power of the consumer becomes lower, as shown by the smaller budget line area. Secondly, we have the substitution effect. Now, if you look at that diagram, before this, when the price of B was 1, we buy 6 units of B and 4 units of A. When the price of B increased from $1 to $1.5, not only that the budget line has shrunk, but now we decide to buy 3 units of B and 5 units of A. Yeah, so we reduce the number of B and we increase the quantities of A. So there's a substitution, yeah, from B to A. This is the two impact in terms of the income effect and the substitution effect, which happen concurrently whenever there is a change in the price of the product. which basically explains the law of demand. Okay, I think that is the end to the discussion on indifference curve analysis. Any question before we end our online class for today?
Yes, sir. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
I just joined maybe 4 or 5 minutes late, and I didn't hear about the exam or something you're talking about. I'm not clear about it. Can you please repeat about the midterm or quiz?
Yeah, midterm exam will be next class. Midterm exam will be next class on next class is 2nd of July. Yeah, during class hours. Yeah, 2nd of July during class hours. You need to log into iTalim and click midterm exam and do your multiple choice questions and short essay questions on iTalim. The period for you to do it is between 2 p.m. and 3:30 p.m. Yeah, so it's basically during class hours.
Okay. Yes, sir. The short essay questions I have to write in the Italian,
Yeah,
right?
you need to type in the space
Yeah.
provided on iTalim. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So topic is 1 to 6,
1 to 5.
1 to 5.
Yeah. Topic 1 until topic 5.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other question? Okay, thank you very much. If you have any, yes, you have questions?
No question.
Okay, thank you very much. So, if you have any other questions, please drop your questions in the group. I will respond eventually. Yeah, inshallah. And wishing you all the best for your next for your midterm exam next class. Yeah, and I will upload these 2 Google Meet classes and provide the link on iTalim later. Okay, so thank you very much. All the best. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you.
Waalaikumsalam.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Waalaikumsalam.